It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
What's happening, everybody? Yes, it is showtime. It is time for the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show. I am here Monday through Friday, 6:30 Eastern Time, around 6:30. So it's around 6:30, okay, if we're going to be exact, like 6:29. Monday through Friday, every weekday. All right, listen. I'm going to honor a Motown legend today that passed away last night with someone that knew her very well. She's got some incredible stories and wonderful just insight, and like I said, some stories that I'm sure will put a smile on your face. You'll be like, wow, I didn't know that. So I'm looking forward to that also. But right now, first, today is day one of the Senate impeachment trial of, that dude that just got up out of the White House. I don't even dignify him with just even calling this name. You all know who I'm talking about. So the Senate voted 56-44 that the impeachment trial is constitutional. What does that mean? That means that they're going to go ahead with the trial and hopefully convict this dude. So tomorrow is day two. As a matter of fact, they got 6 Republicans. Initially, they only had 5 Republicans that agreed that this should go on, that this trial should go on. So they got one more vote. Very powerful video. So we'll go into that. I'll go into that tomorrow in more detail. But if you haven't seen the video, basically virtually everybody saw what happened on January 6th. Heck, Stevie Wonder saw what happened on January 6th. So, but there was some other video that hadn't been seen. Very powerful, just the hate and the rage and the anger and the white nationalism just unleashed all these forces of hate and evil and just fear. Because, racism and bigotry and hate in any form is rooted in fear. But we'll get into that in depth tomorrow. But today, right now, I'm going to honor a Motown legend. She passed away last night. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman is incredible. She is the co-founder. She was the co-founder of the Supremes, along with Diana Ross, Florence Ballard. And then later on, when Diana Ross left the group, Cindy Birdsong last night in Henderson, Nevada. Don't quote me. I believe Henderson might be either a suburb of Las Vegas or near Las Vegas. But anyway, she passed away, transitioned in her home last night. She's 76 years old. I am talking about the one, the only Miss Mary Wilson. Now, not only was she just a Motown legend and the co-founder of the Supremes, she was an author. She did a lot of things. As a matter of fact, my guest, ladies and gentlemen, you are familiar with this young lady now who's a regular contributor to the Geno Jones Show, a native of Detroit City, repping the 313 and the 248. Those are the only two. I think 8472.
734.
734. Coming back to the show.
810.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, the one, the only Kelia Karson up there in Detroit City. Hello, my sister. How are you?
Hello, my brother. I am, well, you know what, considering I'm doing well.
Yes. Now,
I'm doing well.
So I want to start off trying to put a smile on everybody's face. And then I know you have incredible perspective and stories about Miss Mary Wilson. When I first got to Detroit, as a matter of fact, I had this conversation with my mother today coming home. I said, Mother, you remember? I said, when I first went to Detroit, and I remember Kelia would tell me all these great stories about the Supremes and Diana Ross and Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard and Martha Reeves and just
Aretha.
Aretha, just all these Motown legends that she got a chance to grow up, basically grow up around. So I'll let you tell your story. So Key, let's just start off. Well, you know what? For our younger viewers, let's start off because the Supremes, it's unfortunate that a lot of times that someone has to pass before we really recognize how phenomenal and just how these artists or people changed history and the true impact that they had on culture. So let me just say this. I'm gonna lead into you because when we talk about the Supremes, now you may be in your 20s or 30s, like, yeah, I heard about the
like me.
Supremes, right? Yeah, you're right. Both of us. And you're like, well, the Supremes, like, when you think of like a female group, a girl group, as they call it, a girl group. Now, of course, they think about Destiny's Child, and before that, you would think of In Vogue. Well, you wouldn't have In Vogue. You wouldn't have Destiny's Child without the Supremes. The Supremes, they are to this very day still the standard for any female group, you name it, R&B, pop, country, whatever you're singing. The Supremes set a standard that still holds today in 2021 for what a female group can do, what they should look like, and the incredible success that the Supremes had. So I just wanted to kind of establish that key and kind of educate folks who may be, like I said, a little younger, maybe born this millennium, born in 2000 or 2001, or even the late 90s, that really don't appreciate the impact that the Supremes have. So I'll just let you take it from there.
Well, so we would be remiss. I'm going to see if you can hear my audio. Can you hear a little bit, Geno? Let me turn it up a little bit.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, we just had to remind them of who they're listening to today and who we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So that was You Can't Hurry Love by the Supremes. So let me stop that and let's kind of dig into this conversation. So when you look at the girl groups or the women groups of today, and as you mentioned, and you look back in terms of the Supremes and what they contributed, the first thing I want to mention, and it might be going out of order, but is their historic crossover appeal.
Good point. Yes.
Which is or was by design from the founder of Motown Records, which was Berry Gordy. That was from the onset. He knew that he wanted this girls group or girl group at the time to become more than just a Black act. And that's important because at the time, you had labels like Stax Records in the South, okay? Mm-hmm. And Berry Gordy wanted to be more than just a company that appealed to Blacks, okay? So when you look at people like, or groups like Destiny's Child, as you mentioned, and how Beyonce has successfully crossed over, and other successful crossover groups. I'm trying to
In Vogue.
In Vogue. Oh, for sure. In Vogue is a good one. But yes, when you're looking at those kinds of girls groups, you have to think back to the Supremes, who did it when it wasn't racially, let's see,
it just wasn't happening.
I mean, that just
wouldn't happen.
I can't even think of a word. I mean, that just wasn't what time it was.
So let's explain, Key, now, because we're talking about like the early 60s.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about when they went on their first tour as Motown, where there are ropes dividing the Blacks from the whites.
Yes.
With no dancing together and touching and all that stuff. So you're talking about the Chitlin circuit, where they had to travel through the South, and being from the North up here in Michigan, because we call this up North, we had a little more going on in terms of getting along with other races. So you're taking these groups, Temptations, the Supremes, Marvelettes, down south, and they're experiencing for the very first time strange fruit hanging from the tree.
Yeah, really.
They're experiencing, and by the way,
and explain for those who may not understand. Key, explain to those who may not understand, especially our younger viewers, because I know what you mean. Because "Strange Fruit" is a song by Billie Holiday, but explain to them what that who and what that strange fruit was.
Yes, the strange fruit hanging from the poplar tree, which is the last line of the song, is about the hanging, mainly of Black men from
lynching.
Trees.
Yep, lynching.
So basically, she is in this song talking about the observation of men hanging from trees and saying, that's a strange fruit. I don't recognize that fruit. Okay. So these young people from Motown at the time, including the Supremes, were experiencing this firsthand, and they had never experienced it because things weren't quite the same. We had here in Michigan, a more underlying racism. Okay. People acted like, as long as you stay in your place, okay, you can go on about your way. And then we had the big three emerging. So a lot of people were coming here to work and come out of the South. You had a lot of families migrating.
Right. And explain to them the big three, what you guys don't understand.
That is the automakers, your Chrysler, your General Motors, and your Ford. That's what we call the big three. So Black people were in a different space. So when you talk about crossover and the influence that a group like the Supremes would have on these younger artists, I don't think some of them even realize the ceilings they busted through and the doors that they opened and the walls that they kicked in. I don't even think they knew at the time consciously what a revolution they were and how revolutionary they were. Ironically, singing pop songs, very revolutionary.
Yeah. And Key, I was just thinking about it. This is something else that I find interesting, and I'm sure you will too, and everybody else, because you think about the Supremes. So yes, they were the template for, because like Destiny's Child was like the 90s version of the Supremes. In Vogue was like the late 80s versions of the Supremes. But even if you think about a all female, or as they say, the industry, all girl group, if you look at TLC, now they just remixed it in terms of their vibe and image, but the template, the standard, were three women in a group.
And not just three women, polish.
Yes.
When you look at these groups, Destiny's Child, TLC, In Vogue, SWV.
Good one. Yeah, that's another good one. Yes.
Yeah. These groups were polished. And Motown didn't just bring in Florence Ballard, Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, and at the beginning, there was Betty McGlown. She was also a member of this, well, let's call them Primettes. That was the actual first name of the group. They named themselves the Primettes because the group that would be known as the Temptations were the Primes. So they were the Primettes so those two groups will become the Supremes and the Temptations. But at the time, Berry Gordy instituted a training camp, if you will, a training school. And it wasn't just about singing, it was about etiquette. How do you stand? How do you gracefully walk? How do you gracefully sit down? How to eat at a table? What fork? All of the artists had to go through that process. And there are artists today, I'm not sure that they go through such a process as that, but there are many artists that still have to go through A&R artists and repertoire at a music label is what they call it. And they have to learn how to do interviews. One of Beyonce's problems early on, and why you didn't see a lot of interviews with Destiny's Child, is because her Texas speak, if you will, they wanted to work on that because they felt whoever her handlers were, and I'm assuming her father,
Matthew,
yeah,
he was making
thought that her Texas drawl, didn't sound so nice. They wanted to polish her. So it was only after she was polished that you then began to have her do interviews because they didn't want people to judge her as being, old Southern, Southwestern,
No, you're right. He hit the nail right on there.
Hillbilly.
You're right.
Right.
Little Southern black girl. Just to keep it 100.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
So Barry knew at that time that the world was not going to accept a group of girls who, let's say, sounded like they spoke a bit more ebonically.
Right. It's real talk. Yeah.
It's just real talk.
Because now, Key, this is important, everybody. Listen, we're talking about the early 60s. We're talking about before the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Act was even passed into law.
Yeah. Where they couldn't stay in the same hotels that they were performing at.
How crazy.
Okay. They couldn't eat in the same restaurants that they were performing at, or dinner halls, or whatever you would call them.
That's right.
They had to eat before they got there. Okay, so Barry saw into the future that, okay, if I bring these groups out with polish, then maybe you can just appreciate the music. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take that off the table. Let's take as much as we can off the table. Let's even make the music a little more friendly to anybody so that we can take that off the table. So you can appreciate these artists for what they bring to the table.
Yeah. Good point.
And then on that note, I'd like to, and you'll tell me if you want to go there yet, talk about the dynamic between the three women, because that's another problem that happens in groups. You have this group dynamic, and then all of a sudden you have Beyonce.
Yeah, well, you know what? So it's funny that you mentioned that. So let's go there. So that the Supremes set so many templates. I guess one could argue good and maybe some not so good in terms of how groups who followed the Temptations, especially female groups. But this issue of conflict, it wasn't just female groups. I mean, we could say the same thing about the Temptations, but the media tend to, listen, we're still dealing with misogyny and sexism. So a lot of times when women behave the same way that men do, society looks at women differently and tends to be a lot more critical and finger pointing about behavior that men or all male group can do, and it just didn't have the same edge. Key, you know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
So go ahead and tell, because I know where you're going, but explain the story about, because I wanted to kind of let you do a chronological thing, and then I know you got some wonderful personal stories, because you really grew up around these people. Your mom and your aunts literally grew up with Diana, and so you'll tell your story.
Yeah.
But so we went from the Primates to the Supremes, then we went to Diana Ross and the Supremes.
The Supremes, right.
And then I want you to tell, I know you know, I just found out today, I didn't know it, how Mary Wilson and at the time, I guess Florence Ballard was in the group, how they found out that Diana Ross was no longer in the Supremes and it was going solo. Because you know the story, don't you? Oh, you don't know the story?
Well, I know the story I know.
Okay, well,
what is the story you know?
Well, no, we'll get to I want you.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah, when you get to it, you tell the story you know, and I'll tell you what I was told today. So so we'll just start from how how the evolution of the Supremes.
So going in you got these four, but then it was dwindled down to three.
Now,
and we all know that story. Somebody gets pregnant or somebody gets, says, I want to get married and I don't want to do this singing thing.
Now Key establishes, let me just jump in here, they were young, if I remember.
Oh, yeah.
They were teenagers.
15.
Because Detroit had, every city had legendary projects. Chicago had Henry Horner, because the show Good Times. Well, actually, the show Good Times was depicted about Cabrini Green, the Robert Taylor projects. But I think the world kind of knew. If you think about Chicago and projects, they'll say Cabrini Green because then they'll think of Good Times. Right. So when you think of Detroit and projects, no matter where you lived, you always heard about the Brewster projects. So did all three of the young women at the time, were they all from Brewster? I know Diana was.
So Diana and Mary.
Mary, okay.
Not Florence.
So, okay.
I think Florence was from the, I'm almost sure Jefferson, because we have, we had over time 4 projects in the city of Detroit. But the Brewster projects was like the one, and the Jefferson projects. Okay. But Mary and Florence went to school together.
Okay.
They're the ones that started out as friends. Diana was introduced into the group.
Okay.
I guess I could say group because, at the time, Florence and Mary wanted to start a singing group. And so Diana came after that was already established that they wanted to do this. Okay. But the reason why Diana was introduced is because Mary and Diana lived in the same projects. Wow. So she like, oh, let me go get my girl.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And Diana, and let me make something clear to people, because you have an image of the projects from things like shows like Good Times. Mm-hmm. The projects didn't look like that at that time.
Right.
These were
middle class
very
homes.
Nice places. Mm-hmm. It was basically controlled rent living, if you will. Mm-hmm. Okay. But they were well kept, nice. Diana at the time was at Cass Tech, which is in Michigan, a huge school to come from.
High school.
As a matter of fact, Lily Tomlin, the actress that Cass Tech.
Really?
Yes, the one of the breakout star from the movie the show P Valley. Uncle Clifford is his character's name. It's Cass Technical High School.
Wow.
So that's where Diana came from, and she was going to be a designer, right? Mary was from Northeastern High School, so they didn't go to the same high school, but they were girls, and that's how she became a member of the group. And the Betty McClown at the time was also in the group. Okay. So that's the setup. But here's the thing. Florence was the voice. And a lot of people have not ever heard Florence Ballard's voice. She was like an Aretha Franklin.
Really?
Yes. Wow. Yes. So when the group was imagined, it would be Florence as the singer,
the lead vocals,
and Mary and Diana as the background. Wow. That's how it started.
Wow. So what happened? How did that?
When they begged Barry to sign them.
Berry Gordy, for those who don't know.
That's right. Oh, I know. I speak in first.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So when Berry Gordy signed them, he said, okay, I'm going to change the name because this Primate stuff is not happening. And we're going to do some changing around in a way, but he didn't make it clear, right? So they start singing and doing some recordings. If you get any opportunity to go back and You may hear Florence Ballard on like the very first album, her singing a lead, right?
Do you know what was the name of that? I can't even, what was their first album?
Gosh, it was before their big hits. It was the very first one. I have to
We'll get
look
back
it
to
up.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll get back to that.
You will hear Florence sing a lead, and she's very raspy, very husky,
Really?
But Barry said that's not gonna fly. I mean, I'm not. He didn't say that to the group. I am telling you what he said. That's not gonna fly. I may as well ship him down south to Stax Records if this is where we're going.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so you got Florence's voice. That's not gonna fly. Mary was beautiful, but she didn't have the presence to control an audience, to hold an audience.
Okay. Now, Key, I did some research and I saw where it said Mary Wilson was dubbed as the sexy one. So
yes.
Where did that come from?
Well, I just said she was beautiful. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Florence was the voice. Mary was the pretty. And we always have these dynamics in the group, right? And then there is Diana. Diana may not have had the greatest voice, but she had a presence. Her look was even unique. And people like to blame it on the fact that at some point, Barry and Diana had a relationship, right?
Right.
And which we know they finally admitted it. And Rhonda, the daughter, we all knew it, but okay, they finally admitted it.
Everybody in Detroit, you all already knew.
Well, come on, look at Rhonda. You cannot blame that on her husband. Come on, stop it. So her Jewish husband is who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You know darn well Rhonda wasn't his child. So what ends up happening is Barry knew early on, even though he wasn't in a relationship with Diana, that she would be a star. And he needed to groom that. And many people didn't understand it because even in the Temptations, you had David Ruffin with that big voice singing soulfully, and still they were crossing over. Why couldn't that have been for the Supremes? Barry said, it's not going to work. And that is a star. And he groomed her from day one to be the star. Where that leaves Mary is, I know that Mary says in her book, and she's talked about this, that that it felt bold. That's how we talk. That felt bold. All the attention on her. Why? But she did realize that maybe she couldn't do what Diana did.
Okay.
And that's when you get to the truth of it.
Okay.
You're beautiful. You can hold a note, yes, but can you do what that one did?
And what would that be? Is it because some people just have that it?
If we knew, we would sell it, Geno.
Yeah, that's true. Some people have that it, and you can't necessarily, if you had to write a paper, it would be hard to write it, but when you see it, hear it, or feel it, and you usually know like that. Oh, no,
yeah,
that one's got it. Whatever that it is, that one's got it.
Yeah, Diana was aggressive. She was the one who was like, "Let's do it," and try everything, and the dancing, the style, let's make our lips like this, let's do that, let me walk out. She was that person, unafraid, uninhibited, and you need that in a star.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But Mary played her role, and I would argue that Mary is the ultimate of the Supremes because she was the caretaker. And to me, until today, God rest her soul, when she died, she was the caretaker of the Supreme legacy. Because Diana is not what you would call approachable.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mary is the one that you always talk to about the Supreme. And I mean, yes, Cindy Bird's song was there. And they even had, I forget her first name, but her last name was Terrell. That was another, iteration of the Supreme. She took over for Diana in the later year, but there were all these different, people coming in and out. Nobody wants to, we want to talk to a Supreme.
An original
Supreme.
The co-founder.
From 1962 when they started.
Wow, 62.
Okay.
Wow.
So Mary has been that voice for all these years. Even when she had to go to bat, money-wise, Mary was one of the first that we know about that stood up to Barry and said, it's not going down like this.
And when you say it's not going down, what are you referring
money.
to? Right.
Where is the money?
So did help me out, Keith. Did Mary or Diana? I don't recall Diana. Did they write? I don't think so. But did they write at all any of those songs? Did they have any publishing on that?
Not that I know of, and I have never heard of them mentioning any interest in it.
Okay. Yeah. They were just groomed to be stars, like you said.
Yes.
Primarily Diana. Yeah.
And that might have been by design, because when you have people like Smokey Robinson, in the background, because Smokey's talent is that he's a writer and he was Barry's right hand, if you will. Then he was a miracle,
But a beautiful voice still to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you have people like that in the background, the hit machine, as Barry would refer to his writers as, no, we got people for that. They say they got an app for that. We got writers for that.
Love it.
We got the funk squad over here for the music, the musicians. We don't need you to play. We just need you to hit this note and learn this step.
And put this gown on and look fabulous, and the diamond earrings and
exactly. So I have never heard publicly them declare any aspiration of having more influence on the production of their music.
So now once they've established the string of hits in the mid and late 60s, so then kind of continue the story because
they had 12 number one hits in the 60s.
Unbelievable. Wow.
And I say 12 number one hits. They had other hits in the 60s, right. Just wasn't number one, because the Supreme catalog is huge. Huge.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I can't. I was looking through today. I couldn't even keep, and I have a box set. Man, you can't. You put in one, and hours later, you're like, oh, I got 20 more to go here.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a few hits. It wasn't until the 70s when the hits hit the fan.
Right. So let's get to that. So we've established they've had just huge success. They've crossed over as they became pop artists, which means that they had like as many or more white fans than black fans, which they would, of course, big stars on what would be called now black or urban radio. And then but they were designed, that was Berry Gordy's vision for them to, and from a business standpoint, that was smart because he wanted to get everybody's money, and he did. So take it from there.
So Where Did Our Love Go was a million seller, by the way.
Wow.
They were platinum before we even knew what platinum was.
In the 60s. Whew.
Because gold was like
I have.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
You sold 100,000 copies. Whoa, right? Platinum was like, what's that?
So they had to come up with a term. Oh, wait a minute.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know if they called it platinum then. I think they just said we sold 1 million.
Or double gold or something, yeah.
Right. A lot of, well, there'd be more than double, Geno. That'd be 10 gold, you know?
It was a times 10x, whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. So we get to the 70s, but I think it was brewing. I mean, come on, let's get real. Prior to that. But you definitely get to the 70s and you're looking around like, yeah, when is the marquee gonna change from the Supremes to Diana? Okay, so Barry just, Barry wasn't shy about, his business. He just let him know, this is how it's gonna be. Florence knew that was coming. Florence had already left and was like, I'm done.
Wow. Okay.
I'm done. So Cindy Birdsong is, because once Florence got wind that we're going to be Diana Ross in the Supremes, she couldn't take it.
She's like, I'm out.
Yeah, right. Because I get it. I get it. Because at that point now, they're being introduced in social settings that way before the name ever changed on the marquee.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So, for instance, you're at a cocktail and you're amongst dignitaries, and it's a Barry, introduce us to this fabulous group. He's like, oh, this is Diana. And yes, and they're the Supremes.
He had to know that was going to cause some drama, some friction.
Yeah.
But I guess he didn't care.
Even Mary had a breakdown because of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like actual mental, emotional breakdown?
Not
full,
let me take you to the hospital in a paddy wagon, but definitely some throwing rollers and curlers in the dressing room.
Really? Wow.
And that you know how we do, we start giving the silent treatment and then at that time, now everybody knows that Diana is more than just Barry's muse.
Okay.
This is
some other stuff. This is
right.
Friends with benefits.
Exactly. So and now you're in a room with, you're talking about women. Now, that's getting ugly. So it had reached a point where they were just getting dressed and going on stage,
Wow.
Getting off stage and going their way. It gets ugly. And then the nail in the coffin was when by the end, they're not even calling the others to sing on the records anymore. They've got the Dantes, a female group that was signed to Motown, to do the backup. Or
really,
wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they're not even. Mary's not even there.
Wow. Now keep in mind, like Kelia said, so Mary,
Love Child doesn't even have Mary and them on it. And Cindy on it.
Wow. And I could remember because my mother is she's watching now. She's such a huge Supremes. She could probably sing every song in their catalog. That's how much
I believe
the
it.
Supremes I heard in my house. But keep in mind, everybody, once again, so Mary Wilson and Diana Ross, they grew up in the same housing project, in the same building. So they was like girls.
Yeah.
Back as we say now, back in the day, they grew up together. Literally grew up together.
This is somebody that, if Mary were alive, she could still call Diana. Diane's gonna pick up. And as a matter of fact, they didn't call her Diana. Her name is Diane.
Really? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Diana is just the,
showbiz.
Right. Diane is her name, and she could. If Mary were alive today, she could pick up the phone and call Diane, and Diane would pick up and say, even if they fuss.
Right.
Which they did.
Right. And
the farewell tour, it was a hot mess, contractual hot mess. And then you see on stage these people. We're like, who are these people?
So, and that leads to the song where "Someday We'll Be Together." And I remember seeing that on TV. My mother was watching it, and she was, she was like, you could say she was sad because she loved the Supremes. So when people found out that the Supremes weren't the Supremes anymore, so tell me your version of how Mary Wilson, along with I guess Cindy Birdsong, found out that Diana Ross and the Supremes was no longer.
Well, no more.
Right.
So my understanding is they got a call from management, not, Barry, and we're told basically your services are no longer needed. Here's your, whatever they're going to work out financially. And get to stepping.
Wow. Well, I'm going to defer to you because I know these. You grew up, your family, your mom and aunts, they grew up, they were all childhood friends with folks like Diana Ross and Mary Wilson and, like we said, everybody else. So the version I heard today was that basically Mary Wilson and I guess Cindy Birdsong, they found out that Diana Ross was going solo when they heard the song on the radio, or they found out by listening. They found out by listening to the radio.
So my understanding of that, what you're talking about, is when the suspicion. What I'm talking about is
the actual phone.
When the gauntlet came down.
when it was real. Would you say, Keith?
Right.
The term now, is like, it's my show and it's like cable. They say shit's real. Shit's getting real.
Right.
The issue's getting real right.
And what I was talking about prior to us mentioning how they found out about the breakup, meaning Mary and Cindy, was that they were trying to plan this farewell tour, right? But man, if you knew the details, the sordidness of that contract, it was horrific. And Diana was being offered or demanded, whatever the case may be, close to $500,000 per show.
Whoa.
For the farewell reunion. They were, Cindy and Mary, I think may have been offered a couple grand per show.
What?
A few grand per show. Yeah.
Whoa.
It was getting, so they went back and forth with all that, and then it finally fell apart. And so the farewell tour is with these people you don't even know.
Right.
And you're like, well, who are we saying farewell to? It's not the people that
right. Where's Mary? Where's Mary Wilson at?
Oh my God. And so that's why when you watch Motown 25 and you see Diana say Mary, that really would have been the first time that they really said goodbye.
Wow. Because I heard they fell out for that Mary Wilson and Diana Ross right after that. They fell out. You would know better than anybody.
Yeah,
most people, I should say.
See, this is the beauty of this, Geno. They girlfriends. They are real
childhood friends, right?
I'm sure Diana is at home doubled over. I bet you my life on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I wanted to get your perspective.
That was her girl. When Florence died, Diana took care of things. Yeah, but I mean, that's not the stuff people talk about.
Right, yes.
But Florence wasn't going to be buried like a pauper.
Yes.
Diana made sure things were taken care of her
Good.
and Mary.
That's good. That's
And
good.
Barry.
That's good. That's
And that's
good.
another thing. Barry might be a shrewd businessman, but just like when Mary Wilson came to him and said, "Now listen, sir, do you know what I?"
Tell us that story. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's like, look, Barry, I know you love Diana and everything, but the Supremes were one of the groups that put you on the map.
No doubt.
Now, you're not going to have me out here in court, because that's where we're going, and suing you for royalties or whatever, whatever they had going on. She wasn't getting the checks. And Barry said, you know what? You're right. Because I cannot have you going out there like that, because then I look like a darn fool.
Yeah.
I can dress you up pretty in all these gowns and fix your hair up, and then you're starved to death for the rest of your life. And so he took care of Mary. Good. And then Mary shut up, so you won't hear no more about it. But it was getting kind of shaky. And she told him, I am taking you to court. The papers were filed, everything.
And this is right after the breakup, after someday we will
oh, well,
be together.
No, this was years later.
Years later.
Okay. A few years, well, not many, but a few years,
okay. So, yeah, let's transition, because we want to honor Mary Wilson. But no, stay in that same vein, because my next question was, so what did Mary Wilson basically go on to do? Like you said, she was really the keeper, and she really became like, I want to say the face, but I guess Diana will to the general public, Diana Ross will always kind of be the face. But really, Mary Wilson became like the ambassador. Is that maybe that's a better, the ambassador for the Supremes? So talk about post Diana Ross, what Mary Wilson went on to do.
Okay, so Mary would get married to Pedro Ferrero, I think is his name. She has 3 children. And I think Mary got like 10 grandchildren or more than 10 grandchildren. She big, beautiful family. But Mary, let me say this. And people like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and, all these younger artists, and even the Beyoncés, Kelly Rowlands, they're making it clear that they're going to cash in on their beauty as long as they can.
Nicki Minaj, we can throw her in that same
Nicki
category.
Minaj.
I'm going to go back to Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown.
Lil' Kim, Foxy. Love me some Foxy. But Mary did it in a way that is old school. Mary was beautiful, and there were a lot of wealthy men who
wanted to be her suitors, shall we say.
Tom Jones.
Really?
Took care.
What?
Man, if you don't quit it, you don't know.
Nah, okay, go ahead, Mary.
Tom Jones married and will tell you about his love for Mary.
Go ahead, Mary Wilson, pimp. Go ahead, big pimping.
Took care of her while she was trying to work on Barry.
Whoa. Okay.
Tom Jones, honey.
I love it. Key is
that was
now we spilling it. Now we spilling the tea, Key. Come on, let's spill that tea. Yes.
It's not unusual to be loved by it.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. Tom Jones was and I'm being careful with Tom, because I don't know Tom's wife, and I don't know what kind of setup they got.
Hey, listen, it's
but
real talk. Hey, don't get mad at you.
Yeah, it was no secret.
Yeah,
his
people
love
in the industry knew. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't with Tom. It wasn't, oh, that's just that guy I see sometimes. No, she was the other. The other.
So they would say nowadays so she was a side piece, but more than a side piece, you're saying?
Yeah, with a bank account.
Oh, so she was like a side piece plus plus plus.
Right. So I
Platinum.
mean, in a people would say a kept woman, if you will.
Yes, the old school term is
But
kept. Yes.
but the but the difference is, see, a kept woman technically that means you can't see nobody else. Mary and Tom, they didn't, she could
do
go
do her
out
thing.
and she did.
What you say? And she did.
And so I'm just saying that, and I don't feel bad about it in no kind of way. Mary took advantage of what she had to offer. Mm-hmm. And if it's because of her beauty and her ability to converse with the opposite sex in such a way that they would want to shower her with gifts and praise and luxury, why not? Why not?
So what?
And that's what she did.
So did she have some other underwriters and sponsors, famous ones that we can talk about?
I don't know of any
famous ones.
I do know a couple, but
okay.
Okay, so let me just say this.
Thank you. Come on, this your boy. Give me some tea. Give me some more tea.
Maybe like your Duke Fakar.
Four tops. Oh, you're not saying, but your little birdie said, "Hey." Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Listen, these people were in close quarters for years. So there's a whole lot of mixing and mingling. And listen, they were kids, Geno.
Yeah.
They were young and having crushes on each other.
And famous and huge stars.
Yeah. And loving each other, but knowing maybe they can't be together and all of this stuff. So I am sure Duke is devastated. Just much like Dennis Edwards when Aretha Franklin passed away.
Yeah.
You have these long unrequited loves from the past, and I think for Mary, Duke would have been on the short list for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so that's one I think I can say out loud. And
okay. I got you. I got you.
But yeah, I mean, Mary, she did well for herself. She was able to take care of her family. And then, like I said, Barry did the right thing and made sure she had her money and made sure that she wasn't going to have to beg nobody for the rest of her life.
Good.
When she helped set that company up like she did.
Yeah, that's true. And she went on to become an author also.
She wrote, she had a couple of books. The first one, so if you want to know about the Supremes, right? And some of the things that happened to Mary, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to help Mary's family today by helping sell some books. There are a couple of incidents in there that you really want to know about.
Really?
Okay. Some devastating things that happened to her.
Wow.
And a lot of the girls at that time, the girls groups. So Dream Girls, okay. My Life as a Supreme, that was the first one. So that's specifically about the Supremes.
Okay.
Her, and then she had another one. I think it's Supreme Faith, Someday We'll Be Together. Mm-hmm. That's her autobiography. So that's more about her complete life.
Okay. Hey, so look, can you give us one example of something that was really devastating that people might not know that's actually in that book? Because you said they reveal, I guess, some really personal, intimate stuff in terms of some painful experience that they went through. Experiences.
One would be a fight that would kind of determine the trajectory of the group and their relationship to each other. Mm. It's a a come to Jesus moment.
Wow.
They're in the dressing room and this thing happens. And they're all kind of like, that's when you know Florence is going to the left. Mary is going to the right, and Diana is going straight up the middle. And they say it. I mean, it's that point where, okay, let's.
Right. Okay, you know what? Since we're going there, we just going to put it all on the table. All right. All right. Look, B, you know, I can't stand you. Well, all right. Well, heifer, you call me that kind of, when it got real, as they say, when the ish got real, the conversation went back to Brewster Projects and was like, take off these gowns and these diamond earrings.
That's exactly
right
what I'm talking about.
Don't get it twisted now. We're going to take this thing back to Brewster.
Right, because these girls are from the sea. And as a matter of fact, Florence was the fighter.
Oh, really?
That's who you did. Ooh.
What'd you say, Keith?
Yeah, you didn't want to fight with her. You did not want to fight with her. So Florence, it got ugly. Wow. And for Mary to get ugly too, because she was the sweet one, and Diana is passive aggressive.
Okay. I can see that.
Okay.
I can see
that. She like, girl, bye. If it ain't about the money, it ain't about my time. She only is going to talk about it if it's necessary. So, but at this moment in time, they all agree that we need to get some stuff on the table and we need to go on and just get straight with what we're doing here. So that's a good part of the book. Another good part of the book is an assault that happens.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And you like,
to Mary? To Mary?
Yeah.
Wow. By somebody famous, probably.
Yeah.
What's the name? What's the name of the book?
Yeah.
What's the name? It's in the book, so it ain't.
So it's the one about the Supremes is Dream Girls.
Okay.
My Life as a Supreme.
And so she talks about this assault by somebody famous.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Somebody with somebody on
the
the Motown.
Other one.
I'm sorry. Somebody
Supreme
on the Motown
Faith.
label.
Say again.
I didn't mean to step on you. So I just want to get. I'm still trying, Key. Somebody on the Motown label. Key just say, get the book. Just
Another act.
Oh, not on Motown.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're traveling on the tours.
God, Key, I bet I know who it is. I'm not gonna say any names, but I bet I know. After the show we'll talk. I got a feeling. No, really, real talk. Because my mother's watching right now, and I guarantee you, my mother probably is like, oh, I bet I know who it is. So we'll he wasn't no Motown. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, he wasn't no Motown, but yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of stuff, which is still common today on these tour buses and whatnot. The girls just kind of became, depending on the situation, easy prey.
Key, listen, let me say this. And I'm kind of going off the subject, but we're not. Because now it's just because this is a serious thing, domestic violence. And it was just, especially in the industry, with these men who were stars, and I mean, this is the misogyny and the sexism and the sense of entitlement. But my mother witnessed Tammy Terrell being kicked in the head. She was literally backstage at a show, and she witnessed Tammy Terrell being kicked in the head by somebody with some high heel shoes. And I'm not going to say any names, but I guarantee you, we talk after. You can call my mother. She will tell you the story, and to this day, and this person ain't around to this day, she does not like this person. So I'm saying all that to say, unfortunately, what you're saying is so true, because we're talking the 60s and 70s, and so much of that went on.
And listen, it's no secret that David Ruffin abused Tammy Terrell. I mean, that's no secret.
Well, David Ruffin ain't the one that my mother saw kick Tammy
Terrell
in the head.
I'm just saying that Yeah, I mean and everybody knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody. Well,
I
I
heard
wouldn't
about
say
David Ruffin.
nobody.
I heard about David Ruffin, but yeah, who my
A
mother
few
saw.
people tried to step in, but like I said, it was the culture,
Yes, it
the
was.
culture, and
Yes.
so Mary kind of got caught up in that culture of the time, and she
Yeah.
wasn't alone. It was a
No,
lot of people, but she
unfortunately.
talked about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you'll find out, in reading the book, and then to go more deeper into her life overall. Again, supreme faith, and then someday we'll be together. That's the
Supreme
if you want to
faith.
know her true
Her
story from.
personal, just is
Yes,
her
her
story.
personal story,
Right.
because the one with the title of Dream Girls, um my life as a Supreme, it starts literally with the Supremes.
Okay.
Most people don't even know that Mary is not from Detroit. Mary is
I saw that. Tell us.
she is actually from Greenville, Mississippi,
Yes. Yeah.
and then she moved to St. Louis, and then she
Really?
moved to Chicago with her parents. Her mother
Really?
was a domestic, and so she's trying to find work. And so they sent Mary on to live in Detroit with an aunt and an uncle until the entire family
Gotcha.
was able to come.
Wow.
So yeah, so Mary talks about her life, because there was life before, not much life, but life before the Supreme. Because literally, they were 15 when they started.
Wow. So Key, before I had to let you run, you are a great storyteller, and you are a great source of tea spiller.
Well, I try to do it respectfully.
You,
Yeah.
you do, but you got some wonderful personal stories about being a little girl and growing up
Yeah.
around all of these women, and they come into your
Yeah.
house because they had relationships with your mom and your
Yeah.
aunt. So just share a couple of those wonderful stories. Some of the ones that you told me when we met way back in the '90s.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Where to start, huh?
No, and I'm going to be brief, but I remember being at one of Aretha's parties as a little girl, because for people who don't know, Aretha Franklin, her Christmas, well, it wasn't Christmas, it's kind of after Christmas because it's for her birthday.
Okay.
But it's, around in that time, right after the holidays, the high holidays. If you got a chance to go to Aretha Franklin's, man, because there's celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, even celebrities covered that invitation. Wow. So everybody went on the list. So one year, everybody's like, is Diane coming? Because they call her Diane. And Mary was there. But I guess Diane was invited too. And I was a little kid and I was like, oh my God, is Diana Ross gonna? So she never came that I know of, unless it was a secret door and some secret room. But baby, those celebrities partied like I never seen in my life.
So who were some of the celebrities
at that particular party? So Mary, and I remember that one because Mary was there. Mary was there.
Some of your Motown stars, goodness. Smokey, Marvin Gaye, were they there?
So most of them were there. And I say it like that because that's a given.
That's just a regular with no big thing.
Right. Because Smokey, was Aretha's best friend, like real life. That's right. Her.
Now
Ace Boone Coon. When she want to talk, that's who she calls, So that was regular. I'm trying to think of people that you would go, what?
Was Marvin Gaye there?
No, not at that one.
Now, because Marvin is not from Detroit, like Smokey and a
No,
lot
he's
of
a DC area or Maryland-ish
DC. No,
area.
you're right, Washington DC. But he came, of course, he came to Motown.
Yeah, but a lot of all Motown acts weren't from Motown,
Right.
Geno. So just FYI,
Right.
but most of them were. Oh, at that part, Ashford and Simpson was there.
Were the Temptations there?
Goodness.
Which Temptations?
Well, only David. I mean, not David. Dennis.
Dennis Edwards. Okay.
Dennis Edwards was there because that's that was Aretha's. But at the time, Aretha was married to Glenn Turman from A Different World, and he's a famous actor.
Yes. But
a lot of younger people would remember him as the Colonel from A Different World.
Mm-hmm.
But when Ashford and Simpson, oh my God, I was like, what is that? I mean, and the Isaac Hayes.
Oh wow.
I mean, Geno, I was so little. I'm like, I can't even remember. I remember half the.
Were the Commodores on Motown at that time? Were they kind of, even though they're from Alabama?
Yeah, they were at that time. Yeah, at that time, shoot, Lionel Richie was on his own by that time. He had broke out on his own by then. But I mean, you could see some of anybody. I wish I had a clearer memory, but I was so young for that particular party. But I just remember Mary because even though she was as famous as everybody else, there was something different when she walked in the room. Even among, you know what I mean?
Right. Now, how did your mom explain there? How did your mom and your aunt? How did they know Mary?
Yeah. So my aunts were the background singers for Isaac Hayes, Hot Buttered Soul.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So when you hear "Who is the man?" and then you hear that, "Shut your mouth," those are my aunts.
Get out of here.
Can you dig it?
I don't even remember you ever telling me that, Key. All this time. Wow.
I never told you that.
I don't remember. I don't remember. But maybe you did.
I just got a text from my aunt. But it was Pat Lewis, Diane, and Rose. They were the background singers. Hot Buttered Soul.
I remember them. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then my godmother, who was best buddies with Pat, one of the background singers for Isaac. And by the way, let me not end it there. My aunt Pat also went on to produce and arrange for George Clinton. So
what?
As a little high school kid, I'm driving George Clinton around when he come to town, when they're rehearsing and stuff. But so when you think about do the dog catcher? That's my aunt.
Wait a minute.
Baby, do the dog catcher.
Singing.
Yes.
But you said producing though. Did she actually?
So her thing is to arrange background.
Really?
The arrangements for the background.
Just the background.
And so she would sing them too.
Did she do the beats?
No.
Just the background vocals.
Yeah, the vocal.
That's your aunt that arranged that?
Yeah.
And
singing. Yeah.
What? What's Aunt
Pat?
Is it Aunt Pat?
And that high note, that I can't even do it because my voice is so low.
That's Aunt Pat?
That's Aunt Pat.
Aunt Pat.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then my mother was PR for so you know her as Sherelle.
Yes.
Monday, Tuesday, Saturday.
Come on.
I just saw Sherelle on the Whitney Houston and Bobby Christina special. But so my mother would do PR for groups like that. So I'm a little kid sitting on the Cheryl's bed watching her get ready to become a star.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the next thing I know, my mom says, Sherelle is off, and because she's really from LA.
Right.
I mean, even though her stepfather is from Michigan, Detroit, he was a lawyer, and they would, you know, go back and forth between LA and Detroit. But yeah, she said Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis signed her. And the only thing I knew at that time, because I was a little girl, was that they were from the time. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, they're producers, because you hadn't really heard of them in that light yet.
Right.
And so Sherelle was one of the first notable, but then right after Sherelle, they got Janet.
Yes, and it was a wrap.
Man.
Right. As a matter of fact, very interesting story. For those, if you have not seen my conversation with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis from a couple of months back, they tell you, as a matter of fact, they tell you now that they're doing their own album, Jam and Lewis Volume 1, they will tell you how long that album had been in the works. And they will tell you there is one hit on Janet's first album that was really supposed to be their hit to go on their debut solo album.
Oh, wow.
But Janet heard it. She heard the beats, and Janet wanted it. And John McClain, who was the head of the A&R division, artists and repertoire, like he said, said whatever Janet wants, Janet gets.
Wow.
So Janet said, I like that. I want it. And Jimmy and Terry, they can tell you the story much better than I can.
Then you taught me something I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know, Geno, I could go on and on. You know, I remember sitting on the step of the music hall here in Detroit and watching the rehearsal for Vanette Carroll's Your Arms Too Short to Box with God. And if you want to know the people who came out of that, I mean, I'm just a little kid sitting on the step watching Jennifer Holliday rehearse, because she was there before she was Dream Girl. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And then Denzel and his wife were both in the first casting of Your Arms Too Short to Box with God. So I mean, you know,
wow.
this is my childhood. So yeah, I could go on and on and on, from Isaac being in the living room when I was a kid, rehearsing the show and watching that turn into the Black Moses and them talking about politics. And being in Tennessee and going to his house and learning about the dog tracks and the races. I mean, you know, just regular folk.
I know. So Key, before you have to run, I want you, if somebody asks you what kind of person, when you think of Mary Wilson, we know Mary Wilson, the artist, and the kept woman, and all those fun stories. But Mary Wilson, the Mary Wilson that grew up in Brewster Projects, the Mary Wilson that your mom and your godmother and your aunt knew, just that would come by the house and kick it or whatever. Just tell us something about who Mary Wilson is and the type of person she really was.
They were girls, like we call it Kiki. When you sit down and Kiki, you laugh and you talk. And I'm talking about real down home, kick off your shoes. Where is the cornbread?
Girl, I'm hungry. Where the food at?
Yes.
Go in the kitchen, get their own plate.
At Aretha's sister's house, I mean, that's how it was at Irma's house. Yeah, I mean, I can't even go into the love and the normalcy, Soul Train lines, dancing, no makeup on. Then somebody calls somebody, and the next thing you know, Duke walking in the door, and Levi, and oh God, Smokey and his sister, because that was just regular. They getting together, and it's no superstar stuff. People got their feet up, and their inhibitions are down because they know they are amongst friends.
It's like
So I
family.
would describe Mary as just down home, homegrown folk. That's how the actually. You want to hear something to end your show?
Mm-hmm.
They all were. Even Diane, Mary, Florence, they all just girls. Just girls.
Just like
She was
girlfriends.
just a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She would be your best girlfriend.
Wow.
Yep. She wasn't the superstar acting kind of person you think she could be. Because she had every legitimate
listen,
reason to be a diva.
Apparently, she had that it. Just asked Tom Jones and what you say, Duke, and some folks that you didn't even mention. So whatever that it was that she may not have had that Berry Gordy didn't see, apparently some other folks, some high-powered folks saw whatever that it was.
Well, you know what that it was, Geno? She was smart.
Okay.
She could talk politics, but Barry, he taught him to be able to talk to kings and queens.
Wow.
And so Mary,
she learned
was able to do it. That's right.
She learned well.
She became a student, and that's why people loved her, including men.
Wow.
Good conversationalist.
That is a beautiful way to end the show. Key, I can't think, man, these stories were priceless, a treasure. So we'll spill a little more tea after the show. So Kelia Karson, ladies and gentlemen, a regular contributor to the Geno Jones Show. She is priceless. Her stories are priceless, and her presence is priceless. Thank you, my sister. Love and respect. We'll see you soon on the show, of course. I know she's like, gee, you wearing me out, bro. I love you, but you wearing a sister out.
It's okay.
You worse than Skip Dillon and Verner Green. Those
Skip.
Inside joke. Those were our supervisors when we worked in radio in Detroit. So shout out to Skip. Well, I loved working with Skip, and shout out to Verner too. Verner was fun. You know, hey, look, Verner produced a TV commercial with me in it, so I ain't mad. She'll always have a little place in my heart. She tried to make it, help make him a star, at least for a minute anyway. So, but I digress. Kelia Karson, thank you. You know we love you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon, ladies and gentlemen. That is Miss Kelia Karson. What's the wonderful stories about Mary Wilson. Rest in peace, rest in power. Rest in paradise. She passed away last night. The co-founder and Motown legend, co-founder of the Supremes, passed away in Nevada last night, the age of 76. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life as always. God bless each and every one of you, God. Most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show, the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do it now. I got a goal. I want to get 100,000 new subscribers by June. So help a brother out. Speaking of helping a brother out, if you would like to be a sponsor on my show or of my show, if you would like to advertise on the show, if you need the ultimate pitch man, boom, I'm right here, y'all. The brother is right here. I am the pitch man for you. Reach out to me, leave me a message right here. You can leave me a message here on my YouTube channel, or you can just email Geno Jones Show. That's how you spell Geno, Geno, Geno Jones Show at Gmail. Mother, I love you. I know you enjoyed the episode. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Thanks again to Kelia Karson for a wonderful insight and perspective on Mary Wilson. Mary, what's going on, Mary, with your bad self? Rest in peace, my sister. God bless you and your spirit and your soul. Your music and the memories we have of you on that stage with Diana Ross and the other Supremes will live on forever. And the music definitely will live on forever. All right. Shout out to Markel Bailey, my hairstylist and barber. Check him out on Instagram, Kelby Cuttin, KelBecuttin. Wardrobe consultant and stylist. The official wardrobe consultant for the Geno Jones Show is Bruce Gage out of Chicago. Check his page out on Instagram, Bruce Gage, Gage. Also, check out flyballthestore.com, flyballthestore.com, all one word. He's one of the few officially licensed vendors to carry Negro League memorabilia. So if you're a big fan of the Negro baseball leagues, got some really good looking gear. But just for gear like this, check out Bruce Gage on Instagram. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, we'll probably get it a little more in detail. I'll have some, I'll be on one tomorrow. It's a little social political commentary, my monologue. I'll be talking about day 2 of this impeachment trial. All right. Yeah, I'll save that. Don't worry. I'll save that heat for tomorrow. Have a great evening or afternoon or whenever you're watching this show. I love you. I really do. Thank you. Thank you once again to Kelia Karson. Thank you to you. And until next time, God bless.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.